Hi, today we're looking at another PC. Today we have an ASUS X751N laptop, which is completely dead. So we've got the power plugged into it, and there's no lights on whatsoever. Again, this one has actually come from another computer repair shop, so I'm pretty sure it has already been looked at. And of course the bottom case screws are missing, so not holding much hope out for this one. No doubt someone has done something crazy before I have. So next thing, let's get this computer open and see what's actually going on. Okay, so we have the motherboard out, and the first thing we really look for is see if there's anything obvious burn marks, or if anyone else actually taken components off, who's literally got there before me. This one looks pretty clean, no real issues with it, but odd thing is it's got a cooling fan and no heat pipe. So this is actually here for cosmetic reasons. Right, so next thing we'll do is plug it in and just see what kind of voltage we get on the board. There's not a lot on here, and I'm hoping it's not a dead CPU. If that's what it is, then it's pretty much game over for this board. Straight back to the customer. Okay, so we have the actual board set up here. I'm going to plug it in, and we're going to measure some voltages. So let's put it on our DC voltage scale. It's nice having an auto ranging multimeter. It just makes it a little bit quicker. But set the voltage range you actually want. You don't actually have to do that. So we're plugged in. I've taken the power button off. So let's press the power button. Absolutely nothing. So what we want to be checking, we turn the board over and we start looking at some of the coils on this. What we're looking for is 3.3 volts and 5 volts. So this area here looks like it could be the part where it actually generates those voltages. So I've got my 5 volt there. I've got my 3.3 volts there. So we've got the two S5 states, if you want to call it that. The memory's got 1.3 volts, so that's actually powered up okay. That's 1 volt, that's probably PCH power. That is our charging, so we've got 0.2 volts on that gate there. That is most probably CPU V core, so we're not actually reaching that point where the CPU is actually getting any power. So it looks like the board is completely alive, other than the CPU is not being powered up. Now this can be a number of issues. It could be an issue with the actual CPU is actually blown. Now look at the heatsink on this. It's a passive heatsink, so I'm not sure the specs of this CPU, but I bet you it gets really hot. So let's check the resistance to ground on the CPU. Make sure you've got you've disconnected the power. So 70, that's probably not it. We're looking for quite a low impedance. So 20 ohms sounds about right for this type of CPU most probably. So anyway, it's not a short to ground. So that gives me some encouragement. So again, PC board repairs are a little bit different to Mac board repair. Macs are more expensive units. People are inclined to pay a little bit more to actually get that repaired. With PCs, not so much now, because this is from another repair company. We can't charge what we will do retail. So the idea, if you're going to do trade repairs, it's got to be done very, very quickly. So since the prior examination of this actual board, I can't see anything burned out. So what we're going to do, we're going to try for a BIOS. A lot of these times it can be a BIOS issue. I'm not going to say a lot of the time, probably about 15-20%. BIOS could have actually got corrupted. Now on this particular board, that is the BIOS chip. They're usually found near the PCH. In this case, it's an integrated PCH and CPU. So first things first, let's get that BIOS chip off and let's take a reading of it. Get the hot air going. Slightly better. Just wait for it to get warm. Now I can't stress enough to make sure you've actually disconnected the power before you start taking components on and off. it's a very simple board. Obviously, you can see it does come with an upgraded version, so you can actually get a GPU, a discrete GPU or a dedicated GPU put onto this board, but it's probably one of the entry-level models. I'm not even sure how much this thing is worth, but someone wants it repaired. I find it much easier taking the BIOS chip off than soldering wires on. You can get these handy connectors. So I'm looking to place the chip in, correct way round. Put it back in. Now where do you get BIOSes from? It's not a case that you can just take a BIOS from, especially an Intel machine, a BIOS from another machine and just solder it on. Of course it will work, but you've got something called an ME region. And if you don't either program a correct ME region onto a BIOS or copy the old one from the other, the bad BIOS, then you could get a ton of problems for the actual end user. Of course, it'll give the splash screen, will work, it'll boot up to the BIOS. You may work very slowly, you might get fast fans, you might get Wi-Fi dropouts. You just don't know because you're not going to be the user. So laptop's going to go, and in the end, your customer will say, "Oh, that wasn't a very good repair shop. I've got my computer fixed, but it's never been the same." So we have actually got a copy of our old BIOSes, so I'm quite happy about that. So if you need to revert back to the old BIOS for any particular reason, or just to put the machine back into the state I actually got it into, I can do so. So I'll show you how we get hold of new BIOSes. So let's go to ASUS's X751 NV. X751 NV. So I've been to the website before. That's the latest BIOS. It came out beginning of this month. Open it, and that's what it looks like when it's opened. So let's drag that to my download folder, and you can see it is okay. I've got a copy of my old BIOSes, and so if we need to ever revert back to them, I can do so. Let's find out how we actually go about getting new BIOSes. So I'm going to try directly from ASUS's website. ASUS X751 NV is the full spec of this laptop, and let's go to their drivers and tools, and we'll select our operating system, and we're going to go down to BIOS. Let's download that BIOS. Is it downloading? Yep, it's actually already downloaded. So show in Finder, there we are, open, extract it, that's done. Go back to the downloads now. What I tend to do is just open the old one up And you can see the old one is the same length, the new one from the manufacturer website is the same length. It's quite important that is. And just kind of open it up, does it look kind of similar? It starts as the same, but you can see a big change here. Now I wouldn't expect it to be the same because this could be an older version of a BIOS, but kind of roughly the same. Now 90% of the time you cannot go directly to a manufacturer's website and pull off a BIOS. They're encrypted, or they're half updates, or they're missing ME regions. There's tools, and maybe in later videos I can actually show you how I actually build BIOS files up. Sometimes it's good to be part of a network of other repair centres or repair guys where you can swap working BIOSes. There's some good forums out there where we can actually get working BIOS files from. And it's also, once you have actually a working BIOS, it is sometimes good to actually keep it so you can refer back to it at a later time. So let's just go ahead and burn that BIOS directly onto our chip. Now this is a little bit of a shot in the dark. It may work. Now I know this is going to be a working BIOS file because it's directly from the manufacturers, but we don't actually 100% know that is the actual fault of the actual motherboard. But we'll soon know.
Yep.
Okay, now it's time to actually put that BIOS chip back on. My flux has over here. Small amount of flux. Just extractor running. Right, let's re-tin the pads. Just waiting for my soldering iron to go beep. Let me know it's hot enough. Place it on gently. And that looks pretty straight to me. So have a quick check under the old microscope. Make sure we've got no legs that have lifted or components flown off. Could do with a little bit more aligning actually. Try not to be a perfectionist in this stuff, even though I am trying to be here. No one's going to check the chip is a 1/4 millimeters crooked. Okay, so while we've got the board out, let's plug it in. Does this make any difference to the board? De nada. But we have actually got a light on this time. Let's quickly measure. volts. Again, I've got a 5 volts, got my 3 volt rail, that's up and running. I've got my 1.3 volt rail. I've got my PCH power. I've got nothing on that rail. I've got nothing on that rail either. So it doesn't look like the board is still running, even though I've got a power light this time. So, okay, the reprogrammed BIOS chip is now on, and let's plug it in. We're getting the lights. We're getting a red light turning on, and we're having a fan spin. Now the board is alive, so let's have a quick look at see if the only voltage we were missing last time was CPU. Now we are getting 1 volt there, and we're getting 0.7 volts on CPU V-core. So that could well be a working board. Now the only way to really tell is to plug this board back into the motherboard, back into the computer should I say, and see if we're getting an image. So let's do that now. So the BIOS is now being put back onto the board. It's been reprogrammed with the file we got off ASUS's website, and let's plug it in. So we're getting a green power light, we're getting an on charging light, and I expect to probably see some voltage on CPU V-core. Getting a fan spin now, so the board is actually doing something. So we're getting, let's put this over here. So I don't know if you can see that, 0.7 volts. And we're getting 1 volt on, I don't know what that power rail is, but it is something to do with the CPU, most probably PCH or internal graphics. So the board is up and running, but there's one more test, is actually put it back into the chassis to see if we get an image. Now that, once we get an image, we can then button it all back up, do a little bit of testing, and then this one is off to the customer again. So let's quickly jerry rig this up, and we have an image. So that is a lot further than we were getting last time. So back up to the BIOS screen, so we need to probably set the BIOS up, and bit of testing back to the customer. Okay, so let's get that put back together.